Hey everyone, I'm Avram here again for AE Tuts Plus. Let's first start with a quick preview of what we're going to be creating today. Okay, so let's start. First, let's drag our footage into the timeline, create a new composition with it. First thing I want to do is key out the sky. So let's apply key light. Choose a part of the sky somewhere in the middle. And that does a pretty good job actually. But I think we can do better than that. Let's switch to screen matte in the view option and toggle down the screen matte section. Now everything in black will be key out and everything in white will remain in our frame, and every gray in the middle is in between. So we want to get as most black and white as we can and as less grays as we can. And to do that we have these two parameters, these clip black and clip white to mess around with. We're getting a pretty good result here. And one more thing I would like to do is apply the screen pre-blur. I'll make it 0.5. Okay, let's switch back to final result. And that's a pretty good keying here. Another effect I would like to apply here is the spill suppressor. Let's see, we don't really have that much spill here, but it's always a good idea to use it. And we'll switch it from faster to better to get the best result we can, and that will take care of any spills we got that we might miss, but I think we've got most of it. Okay, wonderful. Let's rename this composition to Hummingbird Key. Move it over to the comps section and let's close this one up, open this one, and let's see. Now let's create a new composition. Same dimensions, which is Paul. Okay, and we'll call it Hummingbird CC, which stands for color correction. And to that composition we'll drag the Hummingbird keying. Let's apply a new adjustment layer and we'll rename it to CC. This is going to be just a very simple color correction here. We'll apply levels and enhance the contrast. And let's apply curves as well, once again just to get some contrast in this footage. Great. Now one last thing, after doing a bit of research I found that in most hummingbird species the male is the one that's fancy with glittering feathers and the female is the one that's plain. So right now we're looking at a female, and I think we can give her a quick sex reassignment surgery. Let's create a new adjustment layer and we'll call it change to color, which is exactly the effect we are going to use. Change to color. Okay, let's apply it to the adjustment layer. Pick the color we want to change, which is the brown, and let's switch it to green, bright green. Okay, let's raise the value to somewhere around 8 maybe, and let's raise the softness to 100% so we can get some of the brown feathers skin out. Let's raise the hue to 10%, that way it covers all the feathers but we still get some brown picking out, so it's a bit closer to real life. Okay, I think that's enough here. Okay, so now let's create a new composition, the same dimensions, and we'll call it Hummingbird. Naturally, Hummingbird edit. Dragging the Hummingbird color correction composition. Now let's see. Over here we got some plantation and a bit of the sky that we don't want. So let's key those out. Let's see where the Hummingbird is at, and let's mask those out. Don't be afraid to cut out some of the Hummingbird because we're gonna edit this part out. And let's reverse the mask by switching it to subtract. Okay, let's see if we got the good key in here. Yeah, none of the plantation is poking out. Great. Now, let's scroll a bit down the timeline. The hummingbird is for a very long time just hovering, and here it's taking a dive, doing something, and back out again. Okay, this will be our exiting point. So let's cut this layer. Usually the keyboard shortcut for that would be Ctrl-Shift-D, but the recording software I'm using is preventing me of using that shortcut. So I'll use the longer version, Edit, Split Layer. So dive until this point. So let's cut the layer again, Ctrl-Shift-D or Edit, Split Layer. We'll start again from this part here. So hit Alt, open brackets. That will shorten the layer to the exact place where the marker is. And let's switch it to here. This is just about where we're losing the hummingbird. So Alt, close bracket. Shortcut to adjust the layer duration. Just about this part here. Let's cut this layer again. So Edit, Split Layer. At this point, this is where the hummingbird is diving away from the TV, and here it turns around and watches the TV from the other side. So at this point it should be facing the other side. So let's hit S and unlink the scale values and hit -100 on the X axis. Okay. So there we have it. A quick turn. And since the hummingbird will be at natural speed at this point, and we'll have a bit of motion blur here, we won't see the switch, but actually at the moment it's looking quite good as is. And here we got another big switch and floating away. Okay, so let's trim the comp to the end of this part and trim comp to work area, and that's it for this part. Okay, so at the next step, we want the hummingbird to interact with the TV. So first of all, let's drag it in our main comp. As you can see, we get some lines here. So let's add a rectangle rest by double clicking on it and hit double M. And let's lower the mask expansion. Let's hit the toggle mask and shape path visibility, just so we won't see the mask for a second here. And lower the mask expansion to about -3. That will take care of the small lines we got there. Okay, wonderful. And next we want the hummingbird to interact with the TV. Let's take a small break from the hummingbird and deal with the TV for a second here. Let's create a new composition and make it HD TV. Set it to 30 frames per second, and let's call this one TV. Okay, drag it inside comps, and in my assets I've got 2 PNG files of an LCD TV, side and front. We do have some stuff we want to change here. First, we want to get rid of the stand, since that will only get in our way. So let's mask it out and invert the mask. Okay, now also the trimming I've done in this file isn't perfect, so I would like to apply simple choker and hit a value of 1 or maybe even 2, and that will take care of it. We got cleaner edges now. That's it for the front, and let's set the side as well. Let's lower the size again here. We want to be the exact dimensions as the TV front. Same thing here. Let's apply simple choker and set it to 2. That will get rid of the fringe we've got here. Okay. Let's once again get rid of the stand and flip the mask. Now let's rename this one to be LCD left side, and here's why. We're going to convert these 2 layers to 3D layers. I do want to move the anchor point to the edge here. That way I will have a better control of it. Let's switch to custom view and drag it to the left and rotate it on the y-axis to 90 degrees and switch back to front view just to make it more precise. Okay, let's see if that works. That works perfect. Switch back to active camera and let's duplicate this one and we'll call it LCD right side and we'll move it to the right. Now I've got a feeling that the sides are a bit far from the front, so let's switch to side view. Yeah, they are a bit far. No one will see it with the motion blur and all, so no need to bother there. One last thing, I want to insert our picture, which in this case is the flowers. Let's switch it to 3D and scale it down. Make sure you don't move it on the Z-axis, because that way it won't be lined up with the LCD front layer. So let's lower the opacity for a second so we can see what we're doing here, and raise the scale a bit, make it 28, and now let's draw our mask here. This will probably be a good time to tell you that this tutorial is actually loosely based on a TV commercial I saw 10 years ago, and it was actually a series of commercials. Might be a good idea to continue on and do other parts of this series. Well, we'll see about that. Okay, so now we got picture inside our TV. Let's raise the opacity to 100 once more. Now here's the deal. I know that LCD TVs has a great sharp picture and you don't get a dark silhouette at the edges, but I will create one just because it makes it look a bit more natural, however strange it sounds. So let's duplicate this layer and we'll apply fill to it and make it black, or rather dark blue, and let's hit M to reveal our mask, and let's call it first silhouette. Let's duplicate this mask and switch it to subtract. Let's hit F here so we get the mask feather, and just raise the feather amount till you get some amount of silhouette at the edges. Okay, next, I do want to have a small amount of movement on the trees. I'm not saying you will notice it, but sometimes you do need a secondary motion there, which the audience doesn't really see at the first glance or even the second one, but it's there, and most times you catch it in your subconscious and it makes it look a bit more natural. So let's add a nice mellow, smooth wind blowing through these branches. In order to do that, we will first need to pre-compose our flowers composition. So Ctrl-Shift-C, and we'll choose Leave All Attributes. We'll rename it to Flowers Pre-Comp. In the Flowers Pre-Comp, I will apply a mesh warp. There it is. And immediately you get a grid. This grid actually is very simple to comprehend. You just pick vertices and move them around, but I don't really need this many vertices, so I'll switch it to 3x3, maybe 4x4, and we'll set the quality to 10. Let's set a keyframe at the start of our composition. Now the most logical thing to do will be to have the most movement at the edge of the branches and the least movement at the bigger part. So let's start at the edges and just want just a smooth, slow movement. Nothing too fancy, just smooth. Maybe over here as well. We don't want too much distortion. Whoops. I know you're looking at this right now and saying, Well, this looks like crap. You shouldn't do this, man. But trust me, it will look real good once it's finished and composed. And let's switch to the, let's say 30 seconds later, and hit reset. That will set another keyframe. And let's make them both easy ease. So right click on it and keyframe assistant, easy ease. The shortcut for that is F9, but I can't use it because of the screen recording software I'm using. Let's get a quick preview of what it looks like. Okay, so this is a really mellow movement. Let's move this down the line. Okay, let's see how this looks. Okay, it doesn't look much at the moment, but trust me, it will look $1,000,000. Oh, and we do need to raise the quality. That will take care of the jumps there to make it a smoother motion. That's enough. And let's compose our TV in the main comp. Drag in our TV. First, we want to collapse transformation. It's this little button here that looks like the sun. And using this button, if we'll switch it to 3D, will mean we can now rotate it in 3D and all our layers are present and accounted for. Our hummingbird at this point is getting a bit too bigger than it is at this point. That doesn't look quite right, so let's deal with that. Let's lower the scale value from 100 to 290, and this one will be 90 as well, and that will take care of that. But now we get the fringe back here, so let's where's the mask expansion? Okay, just making sure it's not cutting out our hummingbird. So now let's see. Right now we're seeing it flying around in ultra slow motion. I would like to get the hummingbird floating around like 4 or 5 seconds in very high speed, and then slow down to this ultra slow motion, back to high speed to fly out of the camera, and then fly out. Okay, so let's apply time, enable time remapping. So let's see. We're looking for the point that the hummingbird is diving out of the TV. And let's switch here. We already have that moment cut out, and that exact moment is 24.05 seconds. So let's mark it. We want about 1 second or maybe 2 seconds of this ultra slow motion flying, and this is the point where it turns around. And let's mark it as well, because this point we want not full speed, but somewhere in between the ultra slow motion and the normal speed. And that's it. Okay, so let's say I want the hummingbird to hover around for 4 seconds in a natural speed, falls into an ultra slow motion speed. Let's say we'll shorten this part to 2 seconds. Three seconds later, the bird is out of there. And we do want to animate the out of there part. So hit Shift P to reveal the position value as well as the time remapping. And make a keyframe here. I'll zoom in a bit. From the moment it turns around, okay, make another keyframe. And at this point, actually let's move 1 frame back so we can see the bird. And have her fly out. And now let's move this keyframe over here, and it's all taken care of. Let's have a quick preview of what that looks like. Okay, so we can pass on this middle speed part. If we erase this keyframe, we'll just create a big mess in the time remap. So let's get rid of the time remap altogether and create a new one. Time, enable time remapping. And what was it again? 2405. Okay, and we want 2 seconds of slow motion. 4 seconds is stretching it a bit, and actually I think we can get more slow motion and less fast flying. So let's say 3 seconds of normal speed is all we need. Then 3 seconds of ultra slow motion, and then another 3 seconds. We'll make it 4. Of normal speed. So let's see. Flies in, out, and flies out. We need to move these 2 keyframes here. That way the hummingbird will have the fly out animation. Okay, so this is the point where the TV needs to turn around. Hit R, make a keyframe at this point. Actually start at this point. Should end around here. Let's make it a nice round second. Okay, let's make it easy. And at this point it should be 90. So at this point the hummingbird shouldn't be in the middle of the television, so let's set a keyframe at this point. And over here we'll move our hummingbird a bit to the left. That way it's appeared to be looking at the screen, and we'll copy this keyframe and paste it over here as well. So we'll have a consistent look. Okay, so the animation looks quite alright, but we're still missing a few stuff. First and foremost, the hummingbird does not look as it belongs to the environment here at all. That means we need to color correct it a bit. Few tips and tricks that we're going to apply right now. Let's first rename this layer to hummingbird, and duplicate this one and duplicate it again, and we'll pre-compose these 2. So Ctrl-Shift-C, and we'll call it hummingbird luma mate. And let's see, our hummingbird luma mate, pick the second layer and switch it to luma mate, and we'll apply fast blur with a, let's say 25 or 20 maybe blurriness amount, and we'll also apply the same fast blur to the first layer. Maybe make it 10. This one as well, 10. And now if we'll drag in the hummingbird luma matte layer and switch it to add, we get a nice glow out of it. And let's duplicate this layer and we'll rename it to inverted mate, and let's switch it to alpha inverted mate, and let's drag it in here and switch it to add as well. Now these 2 will help our hummingbird blend in a bit better. Now there are some nice light wrap effects out there that deals exactly with these situations, but I wanted to show you the manual way. But other than that, as you can see, the bird still doesn't look that connected to its environment, and that has to do mostly with the fact that the shadows here are a lot darker than the parts that in the picture here. So let's take care of that. For that I'm going to use a very nice compositing plugin by Boris Continuum, and that's Freeway Color Grade. In this plugin, the left bottom circle deals with the blacks or dark parts of the picture, the middle top one deals with the grays or middle colors of the picture, and the bottom right circle deals with the brights or with the bright parts of the picture. So I'm going to lighten up the dark parts a bit. And let's set the middle part as well, just a bit. And same goes for the brights. Okay, so now let's cut out this effect, Control X, and let's go into our Hummingbird Edit composition, create a new adjustment layer, call it CC, and paste our effect there. And now it's a bit too rough, so let's lower the opacity to somewhere around 80%. Now I would like to add the flowers, that dreamy look, so let's switch over to the flowers pre-comp and create a new adjustment layer and call it CC. So apply glow, and we'll use the Boris Continuum glow, which comes out really strong at first. But if we'll raise the glow threshold and lower the glow intensity to 0.4 when the hummingbird is turning away, just before that we want the TV to start rotating back. So Control C and Control V, right click on one of the keyframes and go to Keyframe Assistant, Time Reverse Keyframes. Okay, if we'll look closely here, we got the wings are a little bit too dark for my taste. So if we'll switch back to Hummingbird King and we'll go to the effects, if we'll raise the clip white, you get more of a translucent effect on the wings and a brighter bird, which will look a lot more natural here. Now of course the bird doesn't have translucent wings, but still it looks good here, and you can't argue with what the eye sees. If it looks good, then it is good. Well folks, that's just about it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Once again, my name is Ram Ben Avraham, and I'll see you next time.